When you think of some of the most iconic horror slashers, Chucky is one that comes to some people's mind. He has 8 films up to this point in time, and he is still such a horror icon even to this day. He is so recognizable and still has content still coming out. But there is 8 movies, let's rank them. Now when I was rewatching all these films for this horror season, I decided to finally watch the remake of Child's Play. I always put it off because when you look at all these movies, this is kind of the oddball of it all. Because it's a reboot. And even the show that came out after this reboot doesn't even acknowledge that this reboot exists. This reboot is really just a thing that exists. Because you have this Chucky timeline where all these films connect together and tell this whole story that the show, by the end, connects all those threads together and kind of ties a knot, making it all feel connected. Well, you have this remake in here, and this doesn't fit. Especially when binging all these movies, this is just the oddball out because it doesn't really connect to any other film. And even if we look at the remake, reboot side of things, it did not understand the character of Chucky. Now I can't say the kills in here and the tech side I did like. Tech is growing every single day. So, seeing a tech-based Child's Play movie did work, and the kills made this entire movie worth watching by the end. But the movie itself has dumb characters, never understands the concept of Child's Play, and just thinks of it as a doll that kills people. That's not really what Child's Play is. Chucky has his humor, Chucky has his charm. It's all missing in here. You change the character of Chucky. This movie does not feel like Child's Play. Just a remake that decides to slap on the title Child's Play just to say it's a Chucky movie, although nothing in here really screams Chucky.
She came on to me.
No wonder her career's in trouble.
Seed of Chucky.
Now I get how this film does work for some people, especially since if they love the comedy side of Chucky, but for me, this film is so over the top. It's so goofy. I can say Child's Play 3 and Bride of Chucky did push the limit of comedy a bit, but Seed of Chucky decided to take that comedy and go completely overboard with it. Everything in this movie is so over the top, no horror whatsoever. Just from the opening sequence alone, the title card, that entire sequence, you know what kind of movie you're watching, and it delivered on that promise. It's extremely over the top. Extremely weird, goofy, all over the place. Not what you want from a Chucky film. You go into a character like a horror icon, such as Chucky, for those kills, for those horror elements. What you get in here, an over-the-top, stupid comedy that just feels like a straight-to-DVD sequel. This movie kind of just killed the idea of Chucky making any more movies, and there's a reason why this was the last Chucky movie in theaters for a long time, because it kind of just killed Chucky. He was no longer a horror icon after this because this movie just completely killed him. I'm glad he's back better than ever, back to the horror elements of it all, but Seed of Chucky just really killed off the character of Chucky. Chucky just became a complete joke in this movie, and I'm glad they actually redid that in Curse and Cult and even the show and made him a horror icon once again. Speaking of Cult, I love a lot of ideas and story beats this movie decides to take. And seeing all these Chuckies interact together is absolutely hilarious, and I'm glad we got to see a lot more of it in the show, and a lot more of these story beats finished off in the show. But there are a lot of poor things in this movie. Poor writing, poor acting, poor CGI. The kills are very clearly CGI, and the blood is quite clearly CGI. It has the budget of a low DVD sequel that is just so noticeable and distracting that just throws you off from the entire movie. I used to like this movie, I used to love it, say it's one of the better Chucky films. Now watching it all these years later, yeah, it's pretty cheaply made, but which sucks because I do think a lot of the storylines in here do work really well, and I think that's one of the main reasons why I loved it so much. But now seeing all this poor acting, poor writing problems, none of it just really comes together that makes it work for me, especially since if I wanted to see the story played out even more, there's a 3-season show of it. Now that we have this movie, a lot of the things in here just feels like a lot of setup, a lot of filler to actually get to that other side. Acting is just distracting, everything is just distracting and poorly made. I do think it's enjoyable, I like the story, but it's done better somewhere else. That this one just doesn't really have as much meaning as it needs to.
Child's Play 3.
Now, there is quite a jump from the previous movie to this film because I think I'm one of the only people in the world that actually likes Child's Play 3. Why? I just enjoy it. I love the goofy, campy side of it all. It's not over the top like Seed of Chucky. It's just being this goofy side of Chucky that actually brought that comedy side to the character. But it's not over the top in the sense that it's just distracting. It's goofy in a way that actually brings more character to Chucky. A doll as a killer, that's a goofy idea. That's why this movie decided to take that goofy route of it all. Yes, it's less horror, but we get a lot more of Chucky. We get a lot more of Chucky in the setting that we like him in. I love the fact that we aged up Andy. I love the fact he's in the military. I just love the ideas this movie decided to take in the long run, and it worked for me. But although I do like the silly nature, it also brings down this film a bit because the other four in here actually have great horror and are great Chucky films. Although I do like this one, compared to those ones, it's not really anything special. But real quick, if you want to help me reach my goal of 1K by the end of the year, consider subscribing. Let's continue.
About Child's Play.
The film that started it all for Chucky, and for the first film, it does get a lot right. It introduced the character of Chucky, and slowly throughout the film, we don't reveal Chucky instantly. We don't reveal all this lore instantly right at your face. We wait until Chucky has been seen to the audience. We build that suspense, have the audience's mind piece together what this doll looks like roaming around until we get to the reveal that there's no batteries inside Chucky the entire time, and then he's revealed to be alive. The first half of this movie, I loved. Makes sense why this is a horror icon, only from the first half of this movie. But we circle to the second half where all of a sudden we're learning more about Charles Lee Ray, learning more about how Chucky can get out of this doll, and we're just in this huge expedition dump in the second act that I feel like is a lot slower now because compared to the pacing of the first half, the entirety of the second half is just a huge lore drop. Which very much brings down this movie for me because I just love what they did with the first half so much that when we do get to the second half, all of a sudden the entire movie slows down and you completely lose me. Is it bad? No, it's just significantly slower than it was in the first half and very noticeable difference. There was definitely a better way to write that around without giving us all this lore in the second half and all this great horror stuff in the first half. There was definitely a better way to somehow intersect those without revealing everything all at once, and still giving Chucky his suspense that he needs for that battery reveal. But for the first film of the Chucky franchise that started making him a horror icon, this movie delivers and still holds up to this day.
He's got a playmate of his own. Bride of Chucky.
Now, I talked about earlier how Seed of Chucky absolutely does not work because of his comedy, but that film takes the comedy over the top. When we get to Bride of Chucky, I feel like they were able to somehow bring back Chucky in a way that's great and makes it work, while also somehow telling this romance story between these two characters in a comedy, and still have some good horror elements in there that just all works by the end. Now, it was a absolutely huge risk to take. You're bringing Chucky back after 10 years. In those first 3 movies, he's known as a horror icon. All of a sudden, you bring him back and there's this love story in there. I'm sure at the time of this movie releasing, that was a huge risk to take. But since their dynamic plays off so well with each other, since we still get those classic Chucky moments, since we still do get some great kills, and the comedy is not overly over the top just yet, it all works, and somehow is one of my favorites of this franchise. Now yes, there are a few jokes in here that do get very close to that Seed of Chucky territory, and the ending. What was that? That was not necessary, but somehow they made a romance story, a love story about Chucky 10 years later work. That's the achievement because that was such a huge risk and they were able to make it work in Bride of Chucky. And somehow, it's my favorite Chucky movie, although it's not a horror film. Now, I am aware that I do like this movie exponentially more than a lot of other people. But that main reason is because I think this movie does the horror so correctly. Curse of Chucky came around, brought Chucky back after, I don't know, about 10 years, maybe a bit less than that, and actually put that horror back in the character. Actually introduced this character back to the audience, saying, hey, he's Chucky, this is a horror icon, here's why, and gave us a horror film with all this great suspense, like the dinner scene with all the soup and you don't know who has the poison. I love that scene, it's so well put together. And then when we focus to the kills, gore's great, although it is a bit low budgeted. The CGI Chucky is thrown off here and there, but I think, although this movie is a lot of setup by the end of it for Cult of Chucky and the show, I think it gets a lot right. I think it brought back this character in the correct way and gives me some of my favorite horror elements in this entire franchise. All the horror is extremely well put together. I like how the characters are kind of trapped in a house, can't really escape, and the characters are slowly learning what's happening, although us as the audience know what's happening, the characters don't. And that's just fun to watch as these characters slowly piece together what's happening, and with the great horror, it comes off pretty well.
Did you miss me, Andy? I sure missed you.
Child's Play 2.
But of course, my favorite Chucky film, and probably one of the most iconic ones, is Child's Play 2. The thing about this film is that you already know everything about Charles Lee Ray, so it takes everything you loved about the first film and brings it over, except you don't need to take half the film talking about Charles Lee Ray, because the audience already knows that. The directors already know that the audience already knows that. So the entire movie just moves at this rapid, fast pace, kill after kill, Chucky scene after Chucky scene, every single moment is just done better in this film. You get all those great iconic moments from the first film, and you get even more in this one. The entire ending with the factory scene, I just love how that is put together. We get to see Andy again, last time as a kid too. This film just made Chucky into a horror icon. He was known from the first film, but the reason why you see him at stores like Spirit Halloween, the reason why you see him everywhere, is because of Child's Play 2. This film made him a horror icon. This film is the reason why we have an entire franchise around him, because this film did its job and made Chucky an actual horror icon. Great kills, great moments, great jump scares, it's all in Child's Play 2 and the reason why he is known for what he does to this day. But anyways, if you like this video, maybe these ones on the side ones you too, like, subscribe, see you guys next time, goodbye.